you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from theChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Iron Lady sings it. That makes it official. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys coming by. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you guys being on the part of the show. Refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and you subscribe to the big LinkedIn newsletter in the 130,000 group. We announced this on the prior show this morning, and I'll make the announcement again. We changed the massive format of the show back in 2020 when COVID started, because we wanted to open up to everybody. It used to be just mostly Silicon Valley tech CEOs and stuff like that, which it still kind of is, considering who we have on today. A great gentleman that I think you'll be excited to hear from. But we just put this out yesterday on the Facebookity. We pulled the numbers on how big our audience has grown since 2020, 4 years from yesterday, the February 5th, 2024. I should probably mention that. People watch this show 10 years from now on YouTube. They're like, what? So over the last 4 years, we've increased the show 1,405%. Not 100%, not 200%, 1,405%. How's that for fun? And we did it with your help. So we appreciate you guys taking a part in the show, and not taking apart the show, but taking a part in the show, and also referring the show to your family, friends, and relatives. We have an amazing gentleman on the show, and we're going to be talking about something that's real topical. They just launched those new Apple, I call them the Google Glass 2.0, because I used to have the Google Glass, but we'll get into it. So there you go. We have Sven Brunner on the show with us today. He is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Sphere, the enterprise standard for XR software. Sven's mission is to level up the way the world connects and works forever. Sphere revolutionizes collaborations by harnessing the power of XR to amplify human capacity, enabling users to foster increased innovation, productivity, and inclusivity. Sphere has received over $10 million between two funding rounds and serves countless enterprise customers worldwide, including Volkswagen, Micron, Renault, and many more. Sphere is also proud to partner with industry leaders, including Qualcomm, Lenovo, Magic Leap, and AWS. As an entrepreneur at heart, Sven has always been inspired by the process of turning innovative ideas into real-world products and solutions. His guiding principle as a leader is go big or go home. He is passionate about fostering a culture of innovation and encouraging the team to take risks and embrace unconventional ways of thinking. Welcome to the show. How are you, Sven?
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm great. Thanks for having me. And apologies, yet another CEO from Silicon Valley, but I'll still try to make it entertaining. At least I'm from a different country. That there you go. Well, makes it a little bit better.
We kept the Silicon Valley folks. We just added like authors and all from all walks of life.
No, that's good. That's good. There needs to be more. It can be pretty much a big bubble here. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, talking about Silicon Valley stuff is. It's great stuff. It's innovative, but you got to have a little diversity there. You got to have a little Oreo cookie with the peanut butter bread. I don't even know what that means. I just made that up. So welcome to the show. Give us your dot, whatever dots you have. You want people to find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, I mean, you already did a great intro about myself and the company, so I appreciate that. That's already the most important stuff is there. Maybe a little bit first about myself and a bit the company. As you said, I'm Sven. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sphere, originally from Switzerland. Now I'm calling in from the San Francisco Bay Area. Live now in Santa Clara, or have been for a few years. It's one of these exceptional days where it's actually raining here. It doesn't happen that often, but it does. And as you said, we're all about what we're passionate about is really this, as we see it, kind of new way to how you can interact with computers, right? That's on a very fundamental way. I mean, you already mentioned, Google Glass 2.0. That's it. That's an interesting one because I think Google Glass had a lot of people. That's kind of what they have in mind when you tell someone about augmented reality. They either Pokemon Go or Google Glass. That's usually the two things that pop in mind, right? And depending on who you ask, it's usually not a very positive experience, right? At least when people initially when they hear about these two things. So maybe I gotta first start with kind of demystify that a little bit. The industry has come a long way. And maybe before we jump really, there's so many terminologies that have been thrown around, right? We had AR, which is augmented reality. We have VR, virtual reality, XR, extended reality, mixed reality. Then we had whole metaverse and all these things, which in essence they are differences between those, but I'm a lot of people use them interchangeably. When we talk about that, we really mean projecting digital content into the physical world. Like that's what we really mean by all of that. And really between Google Glass and what we have today is a mind-blowing difference, right? Google Glass, you have like a tiny bitsy heads-up display in front of one of your eyes where you could project something on that little screen. And now we have, Apple likes to toss around new fancy terms, but now we have a spatial computing device. We can really anchor content in the physical world. That's what we're all about, right? We're a software company, so we don't have to do anything with hardware. We actually support a wide range of hardware, including the new Apple one. But also things like, the Meta Quest line, Magic Leap, Lenovo devices, Microsoft HoloLenses, and so on. And we're really the software layer for that. And as you said, we're super passionate about making work, as we see it, fun and efficient again. Because I think a lot of people, we felt it too. You mentioned also pandemic, right? Everything changed. Also how we work and how we collaborate. And we've also seen this, a lot of people still struggle. We have now this, I think probably most of your listeners too, they don't work 5 days a week in office anymore. And neither do I, neither does our company. And that changed a lot, right? Some people are in office, some people are at home, hybrid, remote work. And this is really the problem we're trying to tackle with our solution, right? With basically XR or AR collaboration, you have either a headset on or you can even use a phone. And you can jump into a virtual session. Again, you can project content into your physical world, interact with it, and really work. Our pitch is always to people, you can work with your colleagues no matter where they are, and it feels like you're in the same room with them, right? Even if they're thousands of miles away. We have a super powerful avatar system that really kind of makes you feel you're talking to a person, not like a random lifeless puppet or something like that. So that's kind of what we're all about. That's definitely the message we want to bring to the people. I think the last, before I stop my advertising rant, is I think a lot of people don't realize this technology is really here already to facilitate that. I think there's still a bit this misconception that's like, that's sci-fi, that's 10 years out. In certain areas it is, right? We also, like from a consumer side, not really, but enterprise, companies, productivity, it's here. That's kind of the last I'll say in my opening statement.
There you go. So a couple of different things there. I guess I should ask the most obvious question people are probably asking right now with the launch of the new Apple headset or Google Glass 2.0, I call it. But I know I don't know what it's called, so I'll let you fill in. And I don't care to know what it's called at that point. I'm not an Apple fan. I'm an Android person. But I mean, it's a great headset. It's going to change the world, just probably like iPhone did. Now you guys are software based, so do you guys plan on being available to run on that for people wondering?
Yes, we are. Actually, the device got launched end of last week, and there's not that many, or it's pretty hard to get your hands on it. It's actually called Apple Vision Pro as the full name. It's a bit clunky. Some people call it AVP. Always their acronyms are already flying in. But yes, our solution is compatible with the Apple Vision Pro, and we'll support that device as well. It's always been a core strategy for us. We try to really be an open platform in the sense that we support, again, almost I mean, it's every single one is a strong statement. It's not every single one, but most of the relevant XR, be it VR, AR headsets, we do support, because we want to give people a choice, because all these devices have different strengths, weaknesses, right? Same with smartphones. I mean, I think smartphones even are much closer now, or maybe it's a little bit, I know Samsung has a bit better cameras than iPhones or things like that. But in the XR space, there's huge differences, right? Some devices are super expensive, really high end. Some of them are a bit on the more affordable side. And for certain use cases, that's totally fine, right? You don't need let's say the Ferrari if you can also go with the Honda sometimes, right? That's totally fine. We give the customers choice to go with, okay, for this use case, I need the high end one. For this use case, it's totally fine to go with something a little bit more affordable.
There you go. I had a joke there. Oh yeah, I've been. It is hard to get them because they're like, I think 30 something $100.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to decide which left or right kidney I'm giving up for one. So once I make that decision, I'll put one on order. I sold all my kids already for the iPhones, so I'm out of kids.
Yeah, actually, one of our employees just made a joke this morning in Slack. He's based in Brazil. And I think they're selling it for $7,000.
Oh.
And he made the exact same joke. He said, "Yeah, I would buy it, but I don't have a kidney left to give."
Well, that's Brazil for you. I don't know what that means. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you become an entrepreneur? Is this your first startup? Tell us about kind of your upbringing. What influenced you?
Yeah. So I had honestly a very sheltered upbringing back in Switzerland, where I spent the first 29 years of my life. And went through, I would say, pretty traditional, school career. I went on then to college, studied computer science and business. And I think what always influenced me, I come from a entrepreneurial family. Like my parents have their own business. I mean, small businesses, right? Classical small business owners. But my grandparents had their own business. And I think that always, actually, my parents never really understood. My dad was always like, "Hey, you've seen how much work it is. Why do you want to do it to yourself? You have a good degree. Just go work somewhere and make good money." He never really understood. But for me, that it was really, I don't know. I was from growing up. I still remember. It was always a funny anecdote. A lot of 5-6-year-olds had their idols were like, I don't know. So I mean, Europe, obviously soccer players. So we were the football guys. We were soccer guys, obviously, or celebrities or things like that. My big hero was Bill Gates at the time. I wanted to be like Bill Gates because he was, and I don't know. It always fascinated me. This entrepreneurial world. I think it was definitely influenced by seeing it. My parents and grandparents being in that field. So that was always something I had in mind that I want to try at one point in my life.
And there you go.
Towards the end of my college career, I was like, because then you know how to start thinking about, okay, what am I going to do after college? And that was right around the time when Microsoft back then announced, that was in 2016, when they announced HoloLens 1. That was like that was a little bit after Google Glass, but it was the first one that had this ability, was super clunky device. It was also like $3,500 and nowhere as good as the Apple Vision Pros today, but it already showed the potential of the technology, right? I remember watching the live stream. They had one of these like big keynotes. They announced the device and showed it off. And I was like, wow, it blew me away. I just saw so many, because I've also been a lifelong sci-fi fan. And that was for me like, hey, I could potentially combine my passion of sci-fi technology with, my profession, being a software engineer, and my passion for entrepreneurship. And that was kind of the kickoff, I would say. I think that was the moment where I really decided, hey, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try it. But yeah, it's definitely my first business, first-time founder. Then I went on to found the company in Switzerland, and then made the transition here into the US a few years ago. And now I'm here.
There you go. So welcome to being here. And it sounds like you guys are on the right track. How long you guys been working this company now?
How long you mean, or?
Yeah.
So it depends a bit. I mean, we officially founded in 2018, so that's like 6 years ago. We kicked off the development of the solution, or a little bit earlier, even like end of 2017. So I guess it's almost 6.5 years. It's been a while, yeah. It's actually crazy when you say it out loud. I didn't even realize it. It's not something I think about on a daily basis, but when you get asked, it's, it's been a while. Yeah,
it's funny. When you first start your company, like every day is a slog, and you're like, oh God, this giant thing we want to build, and it's every day takes forever, and you're like, oh, if we can only get to the first year, or 2 years, and then you wake up one day and you're like, holy crap, this thing's been around for a long time. Anytime I tell people, the podcast is 15 years old, I'm like, I'm really tired right now. I need a nap. There you go.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel you. I definitely feel you.
You're like, wow, I didn't realize there's a lot of crap that went into this, but that's the beauty of it. So now there's a lot of companies now that are using your guys' software. Tell us about some of the companies that are using your software and how they're applying it and utilizing it.
Yeah, I would say that's also a very classical use case. I can name one of our biggest customers that use it in that way is Micron. Micron, for those of you who don't know them, they're an American semiconductor company. Most likely in your laptop or computer or whatever, they have a memory chip by them in there. They're the kind of the market leader worldwide in chip production for like memory chips for computers and laptops. And they use our software for basically remote assistance. So you can imagine it's a global company, right? They have engineering, they're headquartered in Boise, in Idaho, here in the US, but they have manufacturing plants all around the world. They have them in Singapore, Japan, Taiwan, everywhere. And for them, like the real kicker was to really get into that was also COVID. because from one day to the next, they were not really able to help each other out anymore, because they would, for a lot of things, fly people in. Because we're talking about semiconductors, these machines are insanely complex, right? I mean, don't ask me, I'm also not an expert, but they're very, very complex machines. And in a lot of cases, to retool them, to maintain them, or if there's an issue, you need to fix them. And sometimes you need to bring in a specialist, right? Maybe sometimes a specialist has to fly in from the US to Singapore or to Taiwan. And obviously that's costly, takes a lot of time, but you could also do it, right, before the pandemic. And then borders were shut, no travel anymore. And they were like, now it's getting trickier. How do we provide support? And that's when they started on board our solution. It's one of the premier cases we also, a lot of other companies use. And how it works in a typical scenario would be, you're on the factory floor, right? And you need to keep in mind, this is an environment where you have potentially, one of these Breaking Bad style suits on, these hazard suits that it needs to be sterile and everything.
Sterile rooms and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And you ideally you need to work, so you need your hands, right? And so it's not really an option to do something like a Zoom call or have a phone in your hand. So what you can do now with a solution like ours, you put some glasses on. You connect to the remote expert, as we call them, and they can be wherever in the world. Yeah. They basically see through the eyes of what you see on site, right? So basically, let's say the example, you'll be the expert, I'm the guy on site, on the shop floor. I would stream my field of view, basically my eyes and ears to you. You see exactly what I see, and you can also interact with my environment. So you can send me, let's say, check out this manual. You send me that manual, bam, it pops up in space, right, as a three-dimensional object. The manual to help me with this procedure. Or you can even live annotate into my field of view. You can say, draw, I don't know, this screw needs to be loosened, and you can draw, annotate, and I see it spatially. So that's kind of a way to much, much faster. Again, it's within seconds. You don't need to fly there. You always teleport yourself to that other employee, provide support, help them, you collaboratively solve an issue, and you're out again, and you haven't even left your office. So that's kind of a use case we see a lot, and provides a lot of value for a lot of customers out there.
There you go. I know a lot of companies are really struggling with trying to either claw back workers, get them to work back in the office. They're running into a lot of rebellion from that. Sometimes it's not working well. People are like, yeah, we'll just go someplace else. And they kind of can with what's going on with the market today. And so it sounds like your concept of being able to create these XR environments would be a solution to, people who want to do hybrid or remote work and keep that whole thing, all the employees happy and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. And when you think of it, it's kind of crazy. There's a huge discrepancy between, let's say, what management and executives want and what actually the employees want, right? Yeah. There's studies on that. Just for the top of my head, there's numbers that somewhat 80+% of managers and executives want employees back to office as much as possible. But I think over 65 or 66% of employees, if they had to be forced back to office full time, they would quit or consider quitting. So there's a huge gap between those. And that's exactly what you just mentioned, right? That's something we try to address, that it doesn't really matter that much anymore in terms of where you are. So to basically have the best of both worlds, right? One, if you come to office and if you work in office, you can still comfortably work and collaborate with your colleagues there. But also you can embed everyone who's remote, right? And it's because what we usually see, even if you're in a Zoom or a Teams call, there's that kind of, it's almost, the people who are on site, they're kind of, for them, it's great, right? They can easily connect and collaborate. And the other ones are almost like second-class citizens, right? They're on the screen, it's really hard to communicate with them. They feel left out. And that's not ideal. And it's just the reality of things that I don't think we're ever going to go back to 5 days a week in office. I think this is, even some people really try to push for it, but I think at max, there's a hybrid one. And I think that's actually also what I really like. I like sometimes also have to face-to-face with colleagues, see them, go into office, but I also like the flexibility of sometimes being able to work from home. And I think that's how most people see it. I mean, there's obviously the extreme sides that want always in office and always remote, but I think a middle ground is probably healthy. But exactly for that middle ground, you need new technologies to help. And exactly what you said, that's where we're coming in, or solutions like us, where you can really leverage our technology to have these virtual collaboration rooms or XR collaboration rooms and be able to work together no matter where we are, right? So basically, if you and me are in the same room, we can work together. If I have the third person that's at home, they can also be in that room and work and see the same thing. They have the same tools, they see the same digital content we place in the middle of the room. They can manipulate it, move it around. And again, we see them as an avatar, right? They're visualized. The cool thing is we synchronize a lot, right? We synchronize eye blinking, mouth movement, head movement. So it's really like you feel like you're talking to a person. It's not just like someone standing there. So you really feel, the movement that you're doing is mimicked by your avatar. So you really feel, obviously, you hear them and can talk to them. You see where they're pointing to. So it's really like a form of remote presence a little bit. And also it's more engaging, right? You really feel more like I'm talking to my colleague and I'm working together with them, because I'm not going to walk around freely, right? I'm not glued to my desk. And after the entire room is my real estate, right? I can have as many screens open as I want. I can have three-dimensional content. So it's a very freeing experience. And we just had last week a longer session internally where we use it for 2 or 3 hours, our own solution. And it's pretty magical, the experience, when you really think about how far we've come. And also then for us, always a reminder of how much you can now achieve with this technology. And I think it's going to pretty much change a lot about how we collaborate, how we work in the enterprise for sure. Consumer is, I think, a bit further down the road, but we see already like super strong interest and strong adoption, especially in enterprises.
Oh, yeah, especially in hybrid or remote working, too. Yeah. Some of the things you guys have on your website, it decreases your carbon footprint, so you don't have to, be flying executives all over the place. Eliminate machine downtime, prevent disruptions with hands-free XR guidance and remote assistance, increase employee motivation, reduce error resolution times, sell more with unique presentations. That's the way to do it. I'll just put sell whatever I need to. Just here, put these glasses on, and they'll mesmerize you into buying something. Accelerate time to market. I imagine that can cut down too. How do you find it increases employee motivation?
So what we see is just a more engaging way to work, right? I think we all know Zoom fatigue is very real, right? It's either being on a call for hours, an hour, and you're glued to your desk. It's a drag sometimes, right? Oh, yeah. Especially I know people that have 8-9 hours a day just in Zoom calls, which is tough, right?
12 over COVID, yeah.
Or 12 over COVID,
right? It was insane, man. I had friends that were ready to jump off a cliff.
Yeah, no, it's real. It's really it's impacting your mental health in some scenarios even. And I think being able to have, as I said before, it's a very freeing experience. It's much more you're not tied to your desk. You can walk around. It's much more engaging. It's fun. That's obviously productivity is the key. That's a focus. But we also want to kind of bring fun a little bit back to who likes meetings. Let's be honest, right? Everyone's like, meetings, another meeting, have to sit in there. It's boring. And we really see, and it's also measurable, it's people enjoy it more. It's really more fun to work. Obviously, there's also the novelty effect, right? It's something you've never done before. That obviously helps, right? Got to be honest about that. Because it's cool. I mean, most people who even internally, but also people who try it, just like it's a really fun experience. It's a cool experience to be able to do that in a what really feels like a new way of interacting with content. But it's also more engaging. It's definitely something that we've seen. People talk more, people engage more. You feel like we're in the middle of the action, right? In a call, you sometimes feel a bit like, everyone's a bit in a silo, and there you're like in the middle of the action. I think that's kind of the change, how it helps motivate employees and make them more it's just more fun to work for.
There you go. You're not just talking about something. Sometimes you'll have that XR building or product or whatever it is you have before you, and so you actually kind of feel you're working on the product in and of itself, as opposed to just somebody just barking at you from the front of the room. You know what they need for those Zoom meeting XR things for your guys' things is that one guy who always asks the question after the whole meeting's done, and you're like, oh fine, I can get the fuck out of here, and he goes, can you explain all that again? That guy. Maybe you can have an XR thing where you can just go punch him.
Punch him if it's just like a virtual punch. Yeah, that's
virtual
punch. I'll bring it up with the product team.
Or choking, whatever. Just virtual, not real life.
Yeah, we don't want to harm people.
That, or you can just cut off his mic and make it so he can't. Like, we've had enough of you. We all know who that guy is. So. I'm the guy who always raises his hand, and I'm like, are we done yet? And they're like, we just got here, Chris. And I'm like, yeah, but are we done yet?
Yeah. But no, I mean, seriously, but it's like, there is a lot of wasted time in meetings. I think we've all seen it, right? It's like, sometimes meetings are held to be held, and we also really push for, hey, use it when it's necessary. I'm also, which sounds maybe a bit counterintuitive, I'm a big fan of face-to-face interaction and being also physically with people, even though we sell a remote collaboration product. But again, I think it still adds a lot. And that's also, I think, the nice thing about this technology is really, it has kind of a human aspect to it, in a sense that, it gives you, and maybe we're also going to talk about AI a little bit, which is also a focus factor for us, but we talk a lot about, AI is, a lot of people are afraid of it, right? It takes our jobs, or it ultimately, or it's even dangerous, right? If it starts getting access to our nukes and then starts shooting these things around, it's a lot of people are worried about these scenarios. And I think AR or XR in general is never about replacing anything, any human element. It's just enhancing it. It's supercharging you as a person, as an employee to do more, right? I put these glasses on, I can do more. I'm more productive. I can better collaborate with my colleagues, but it's never about basically getting you out of the loop. And that's also what I really like, because I'm a fan also of I'm not a big fan necessarily of technology pushing humans away. I think being a human is great. We should actually make humans more productive. We should give them more tools, make it easier to do your job, and not necessarily try to force replacement necessarily. Obviously, some of it is inevitable, right? As technology evolves. And we also don't have people, we don't ride horses anymore. There's a whole industry that died because of that. We switched to cars, but that's some of these things are inevitable. But again, that's what really always fascinates me and I really like about this technology. It's very human centered, right? We sometimes also make the analogy to, something, ultimately it's almost something like, what you have in the Iron Man movies, right? Really, like, you have a visualization, a full co-pilot control center with you at all times. And it's not about replacing Iron Man, but it's giving him more superpowers. That's kind of the analogy a little bit, how we see our solution or the vision for it, how we want to support employees and people. And a lot of them actually also appreciate that, because it's really about, they feel like, hey, I'm empowered. And that's a pretty satisfying thing for us too, to see that when people react that way.
There you go. And evidently you guys support the widest range of devices that are out there. So all the different hardware reality providers. You guys don't do hardware, you do the software. Correct. So it makes it so you can transpose yourself onto just about anything out there. Can you get on Google Glass? No, it's not around.
No, that we don't support anymore.
I don't think anybody supports that anymore. No. Do you have an anticipated date when you might come to the Apple device?
Yeah, we already have basically a private beta. So if someone is interested, they can check it out. The official launch will probably be closer to the end of the quarter, where we fully go live, and anyone can just download it. But we also want to stage it intentionally, because a lot of people it's their first experience with a headset like that. We want to also make sure we meet them where they are and keep them in the loop and can show them. Because for a lot of people, it can also be a bit overwhelming, right? The first time you have this thing on your head, you've never, it's a different way to interact with it. There's no mouse, no keyboard. You have, this tracks your eyes, right? You pinch to click and things like that. So there's a lot of differences. And then on top of that is our solution with a ton of features. And you got to guide the user a little bit, especially the first-time users. And a lot of them are now first-time users with the Apple headset, because it's traditionally people who maybe weren't really interested in that space. And, we all know Apple has a huge following, and there's a lot of people who buy whatever Apple puts out. But I will say it's a good product, right? I'm sometimes notorious internally in our company for sometimes bitching about Apple a bit, but I have to say it's a good product. It's a very good product.
If it gets cheap, probably buy one. I won't buy an iPhone, but I'll buy one of those.
Well, with Apple products, I'm not sure if it's a good tactic to bet on whether they get cheap. But I think they always
That's a good point. Yeah, it'll probably get more expensive. But just don't buy one in Brazil and you'll be fine. Unless you can sell a kidney. Yeah, it's probably good that you guys wait to get on board. Right now, I see people walking around streets with it and driving cars with it. Somebody got pulled over recently. I'm calling it the glass hole 2.0 era, because that's what they used to call us back in the day, the glass holes. And I even talked to my friend Robert Scoble, and I'm like, you wear it in the shower so we can get that infamous around the world shower picture that you had with Google Glass? And he says, no. So I'm really disappointed, but I love him. I think he just learned from Sergey. Sergey was really not happy about the whole thing. But, it wasn't our fault. Google kind of did that to themselves. They made it so expensive. And, back then, people actually believed they still had privacy, even though Zuckerberg was like, privacy's dead. Everyone's angry with him. And they're like, well, you just haven't caught up to what I know. And, now no one seems to care, really, I guess. But you got to wait for Darwinism to clean out some of the first users, I think. Yeah. And then, because you don't want anybody getting hit by a bus. Or I'm surprised, in San Francisco, we're seeing some of the shoplifting stuff. I'm surprised someone hasn't run up to one of them and stole out a gang hasn't run up and jumped some guy yet. But there's still time. So be careful. Be careful out there if you're just walking around with a $3,500 headset, people in certain cities. I wouldn't go to Oakland with it, basically, at this point. Yeah. Because you're probably going to get jumped.
Yeah, I would discourage the use anyways outdoors in general. It's not really meant for that. But no, I mean, you raise a good point. That's also why a lot of the negative, I think in our industry has always been an issue a bit with negative perception, right? And as you said, they brought it on themselves, right? Google they marketed basically as spy glasses, right? That was literally the main use case to spy people and invade their privacy, which no one is really hot on to be spied on. Same, we had a little bit this whole metaverse discussion. I think when it started a couple of years ago with that Meta started, right? Everything was metaverse, and for a lot of people, it sounded very dystopian. This I still remember that line from the presentation when they presented I think when they announced the name change from Facebook to Meta. And Mark Zuckerberg said something along the lines of, you can do this and this and that in our VR worlds, and then if you want to take a break, and then I expected him to say something, then go out and get fresh air, but he said, then you can teleport to your own private space in VR. And I was like, well, that's kind of, I think for a lot of people felt all of it, I mean, it's not, the goal should be to live in that world forever. That's also how we see it. We see it, it's a tool to use to make it more powerful, but please still go on the weekend, go outside and enjoy the nature world. Exactly. And I think that sometimes our industry does itself a disservice by sometimes going into this very dystopian places where people feel like, it's either Big Brother or we want to remove all human elements, all live in a virtual world. And that doesn't have to be, right? It's I think a truly positive technology if used the right way. But yeah, there's always sometimes these companies who push it a little bit too far and go off the rails.
I think Google's problem was they made it too elite. You couldn't buy it. It was only available to the chosen few influencers. And I think that made people resent it. At least with Apple, people can buy it, if you sell a kidney. But yeah, it's like even no matter how much money you had, if you weren't one of the chosen few by Google. Yeah. And I think that's where they really went wrong. It really created elitism, and that's why people hated the Google assholes, is because they're like, "Oh, you're better than us," and we're like, "No, we just smell good." Now, you're using it in several different industries: manufacturing, healthcare, pharmaceutical, defense, and office teams. We kind of talked about office teams. How do you see it impacting what you're doing with your guys' software with healthcare and pharmaceutical, and not only what's being done now, but maybe the future?
Yeah, healthcare is a really interesting one, and I always have to be careful how I talk about it, because sometimes I call it my favorite use case, but I don't mean it in a way, it's good that this use case exists, but it's good that we can help. So let me explain a little bit. So we have an ongoing project, that's one use case we have in healthcare, to basically fight violence against children. And how we do that is we partner with a hospital group in Germany, the Hospital Clinic Heidelberg, and it's a network of hospitals, but the center is in Heidelberg, is a very specialized hospital, right? A lot of specialists there, and they're responsible for a radius of several hundred miles around Heidelberg to basically serve these local communities and local doctors with specialized help. Now, what happens, and this is where it gets to the child abuse cases, is that's one of the most sensitive calls you can make, whether a child is being abused or not. Let's say a child comes to you as a local doctor, it can be in the middle of the night, and they have bruises, right? Is it being abused, or is it just, it fell, right? Children also play and they fall, right? And you want to make the right call. You don't want to send back a child to parents that abuse it, but you also don't want to accuse parents of child abuse if there's nothing there, right? So it's a very sensitive call. And what would have happened in the past is basically that specialist doctor would have to, even if it's in the middle of the night, get into the car, drive, could be 3-4 hours, assess that patient and that case, make that call and go back, because it's too sensitive. Because I also didn't know that, but apparently this is, you can see depending on the injuries which one it is, but you need a lot of specialized knowledge. It's not something that even like a regular local doctor cannot do that. And that was always very painful for everyone involved, right? It's costly, just pure cost. It's also a factor. You have to drive there, hours that this doctor cannot spend on other things. It's also very inconvenient for everyone involved, not just the doctor, but also the patient, right? Parents, child, they need to wait for hours until this is over. It's a very stressful time for everyone. And that's kind of where we started. So it goes a little bit into the telehealth, telemedicine. But basically then, local doctor, again, similar concept, right? That time it's not a machine, it's a human being. Put the glasses on and stream their field of view to the person, basically the specialist doctor in the hospital clinic, and they examine the patient together. And they see that they can collaborate together. It's much less invasive, and you can do it in 20 minutes, would have taken an entire night, right? Which frees up both doctors, makes it easier for the child, for the parents, and they can move on a lot quicker. And I think that's also why I say it's one of my favorite use cases. Really, again, a prime example of really a good use of technology to make things better, right? It's not hurting anyone, doesn't take anybody's job away. It's just making everyone's life easier and better. That's why I really like the use case. Again, it's obviously still horrible that in 2023, 2024, we still have so many cases, and actually they spiked during the pandemic. Unfortunately, it's a pretty almost an epidemic of now both like domestic violence, child abuse, but it's good that there's now also more tools to help and combat all of that.
There you go. Somebody's writing in our comments, is that the CEO of the Vegas event venue Sphere? No, it's not.
No. It's funny. It's actually really helpful. So first of all, we had the name first, just to to put it out there.
Sounds like a lawsuit. C&D, you guys.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, we get a lot of free attention, especially like on social media. People tag Sphere, and sometimes they mean the Las Vegas Sphere, and then we get the free traffic. But if someone is listening from the Las Vegas Sphere, we would definitely be open for a collaboration. It could be an interesting fit. I haven't been in there yet, but when I was at CES a few weeks ago, I saw it from the outside. Pretty impressive. It's really cool. But no, we're not affiliated in any way.
Yeah, we're talking about XR company that does software for XR, Sphere.tech, folks. So look it up if you're mid-show and you're just jumping in. Maybe what you should do is make it so that people can have those, whatever headphones at home that work with your software, and then they can be in the Sphere in Las Vegas and watch U2 or something. U2.
Exactly. I'm just not sure if the other Sphere guys will like that, because then you don't buy tickets anymore, or they would have to charge quite a bit of it. But
and there might be because they could sell the tickets for the people who want to be there.
Like virtual tickets. Yeah,
and then you're also selling tickets. It's just kind of what Bill Gates did, where he licensed the Windows. You have 5 million people watching that thing, but I can see what's going on. Yeah,
I mean, we're open to it. We're not the bottleneck. So if Sphere guys want to reach out, we're here.
Yeah, we'll just get all the spheres together there.
Exactly, get all the spheres together.
Yeah. So what have we touched on that we should tease out to people about who you guys are, what you do? Tell us so people can onboard with you guys. I noticed there's a book, a demo on your website. Yeah. There's resources, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. Yeah. So we definitely encourage. I think a lot of people are skeptical still about this. Is it really beneficial? A lot of people are like, do I want to be in headset? And what we really encourage people is that try. It's something you need to experience. It's also like probably a lot of people who are listening now, what is this guy talking about? It's hard to imagine, and it is. So I definitely encourage everyone, check out our website and a few videos. It really helps because it's a visual thing, right? It's a very visual thing. We have a way to also, you can reach out to us, website, book a demo. Ideally you have a device, right? We can guide you how to download it, right? It's very easy, and check the solution out. We even have we just introduced that end of last year, beginning this year, a free tier, meaning that there's a limited feature set you can just check out yourself, right? You don't even have to pay a license up front. You can just go in and try. And a lot of the features are actually available. You can use collaboration, you can call in people and things like that. The restriction is more you can't bring in your own content. You can only use the stock content we have there, but there's stuff to play with, some fun like models and rockets and spaceships you can play with, just to get a feeling of what you can do with the solution. You can even do it multi-user and so on. So that's also a good way to kind of experience it as a first time. So it's downloading the app. And for those people who are familiar with these headsets, they have app stores too, similar to Android and iOS have app stores, right? Our app is there. Download it, check it out there, and if you want to know more, feel free to reach out over the website and book a demo. Yeah, that's kind of the best way to experience it, and then we take it from there, right? Depending on what the people are interested in and what they want to see. We also get more and more traction from research institutes, universities that are interested for educational purposes, right? And that's also something that we get a lot of influx interest. So every education adjacent folks that are listening in here could also be interesting for you. Again, similar issue, right? When we talk about engaging people in the business world, same is true in the training world or the education world, to make sure it's students are interested, they have a way to, and it's much more engaging. Also, if you have 3-dimensional content you can work with rather than text or just a textbook. I would, at least when I think back on me being a student back then, I would definitely have appreciated that.
Boy, I feel ripped off, man. I didn't have stuff in school.
Yeah, we're too old. We're too old.
God, if I would have had some of this stuff, I would have given a shit about school. I would have been a whole lot different student, especially when you can see like real world applications in front of you of, because they feed you math and you're just like, what is this going to do?
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a shit. And where you could see, okay, well, here's how you use math to, I don't know, engineer a building, and you can see the app, you can see the visual thing. And I'm kind of visual, I'm tactile too, or if you show me something, I can do it. But still, just seeing a bigger picture or the picture of what you're working on in visualization, and of course, geez, that would have made school a whole lot more funner. I mean, it really would have. So I'm jealous. They shouldn't do that to school people. They should make them deal with chalk and pencils like I had to deal. Screw those kids. But no, I can see how this could be used for corporate training too, or leadership training, or just about any sort of training, or maybe coaching, being able to advance things. One of the problems that I think we talked about this last week on one of the shows. One of the problems you have in schools is people learn sometimes at different speeds. And so being able to individualize learning and training through these classes and XR, VR, AR, you could go at your own speed. And so then you're not being held back. And the other thing too is it would make it funner to collaborate. So, when you're sitting in a classroom and, you got some teacher barking at you, which is, probably the teachers you and I were used to when we grew up, threatening physical violence if you don't listen, that sort of stuff. It was still legal evidently back in those days. I had a couple teachers who actually had paddle belts or paddle boards. Yeah. Wow. I think by the time I hit high school, they weren't allowed to hit students with them, but they smacked the desks. Okay. But they would have like holes drilled through them. There's really a lot of violence and stuff back then. But yeah, I mean, some of us really needed it actually, looking back. But where you could, instead of having someone bark at you, trying to teach you something, being able to collaborate with everyone in the classroom where you're all wearing the glasses and you're all like, I don't know, building something or something, that would just be so much fun and more communal sort of experience of learning, rather than, and then you could not have to go to the zoo. I remember we went to the zoo on a field trip one day and half the class got shit on them from the monkeys throwing the shit. And we could just skip that whole experience and just kind of watch a nice placid version without getting all that.
Without monkey poop. No, but you're spot on, right? I mean, it's you touched on a few interesting things. I think one is the learning speed. Yes, everyone has a different speed, but also you also mentioned, right, some people learn better visually. When I say visually, I mean like they see it in 3 dimensions and things like that. Because I think for the longest time, it was textbooks, right? That was the default. Maybe I hope it changes, but for us it was like every once in a while a video, which was already a big deal. Oh, we're going to see a video about something. That's great. But it's not for everyone, right? A lot of people, and that doesn't mean they're not smart enough. It's just they learn differently, right? It's easier for them to learn with their eyes or their ears rather than just read something to perceive it or experience it. And I think there's a lot of potential benefits to that. And I also think a lot, what we see a lot is math. If you want to teach math, it's probably going to involve some textbooks. I mean, there's math formulas, right? There's no way around that. But if you teach, for example, like also then trades, right? We see that a lot. If you train someone who's going to be an airplane technician or a helicopter technician, right? I mean, training them on a textbook is probably not the greatest, right? You probably need some, basics, foundational, but then you need to learn on the job, right? And with tools like ours, you can do that, right? You can do it with the helicopter. You can then add additional stuff around that helicopter, right? Cue or like clues, what you need to do, or instructions, right? They can self-learn again at their time, right? But in a much more visual way. Or even if you don't have that helicopter, right? Not everyone has a helicopter laying around or at all times, right? You can even practice at home, right? You can go through these procedures and so on. So it's a much more engaging way, but also a more practical way in many ways, especially if it lends itself well to, you mentioned architecture, right? And all these things where you have a visual component to it. It's so much easier to conceptualize, to learn, to understand what's going on. And also the collaborative effect, right? You can do it with 4 or 5 people at the same time. You're not isolated. And even students from home, right? You do your homework together collaboratively, right? You can both be in a session, you have it there, you can work on it together without having to do, you're just a boring homework. You have to sit on your desk and write it down. I think there's a lot of potential to also really improve make school more engaging. I think, in fairness, in my time, probably also your time, there were not that many things available yet that could have created a better school experience. But I think now it's almost like it's kind of a crime if you don't do it, because there is ways to make it way more engaging, get people much more interested. And I think will probably help with, retention of students. You have less dropouts and things like that. I think this could really, obviously it's not the old saving grace, right? It's not the silver bullet, but I think it can play a big role in it.
Definitely. They talk about AI and how it's pretty much going to take over everything. And so a lot of discussions we have are, well, what's the role of human beings, and why is it going to keep us around once it takes over? And we talk about how it's our creative things as human beings, our ability to create, our ability to feel. And that's really going to still be our edge, no matter how good maybe AI gets, unless it learns to feel. I don't know. But it seems like this sort of thing can kind of ensure that, we're able to kind of have that edge of being able to create at a whole new level that we never were able to before.
Yeah, exactly. And, I see AI, I think, as we said before, some sort of replacement is probably inevitable, right? There is probably but I think that always happens, right? Jobs evolve or certain jobs go away, but new jobs are created, or job types. Mm-hmm. I think that always has happened over the last thousands of years. That's human advancement. But I think with AI, I think the big change is probably faster than a lot of these other ones. Mm-hmm. And, but how we see it also, and this is also how we integrate it, we use it more as like your assistant. It's really more AI helps you to do more. So we're currently pushing or doing a big push in integrating AI into our product. But again, not to replace the human, but to enhance their experience. To give you an example, right? Let's say I made this example with, you have a problem, there's a machine, you need to fix it or something like that. And at the moment, let's say you maybe don't even know which manual applies or what needs to be done, right? Mm-hmm. And something you can do with AI that we're working on, especially if you have glasses on, you look at that part and you just ask your AI assistant, like, hey, I think this part is broken. Can you pull up all the relevant manuals for this specific part, or all the maintenance history for that specific part, right? And then it automatically, similar like ChatGPT, you can ask it some random question. It pulls it from the internet. It's going to be then pulled from your actual corporate data, right, where it's relevant for you, because obviously Micron or large companies, they don't have their manuals in the open internet, so it's not something that's available. But how we approach it now, that's something the data can, or the models can be trained on that data, right? The internal corporate data, and they can use and leverage that then in a solution like ours, right? Without having to worry about being exposed to the open internet or something like that. But again, this feeds in back to, it just makes you more, or gives you more power to do your job better and more efficient, right? It's never meant to replace you, because in the end, I also believe there is certain tasks that, we humans will have an edge for quite a while. And I think also, we hopefully, we'll see what happens if they crack general artificial intelligence, what will happen then. We'll see if that's ever going to happen, or if it's maybe happened already or is imminent. We'll see. But I still think humans will always have a place for especially as you also shared in creativity and collaborativeness. And I think that's also something we want and need as humans. I think that won't go away. I think certain things will be replaced or enhanced, but we look at it from again, we're in a core XR company. AI for us is a tool to use that makes the experience better. That's kind of how we perceive it and see it. And for there, it has tremendous value, right? It really has big value that it can really enhance your experience. It can make you way more productive, right? It feels very magical sometimes when you can talk to your device and it performs actions for you very quickly. It feels very powerful, almost magical, right? But again, it's always, you're still there, right? You're in command, right? You're in charge as a human, and the AI, the machine, is there to support and help you. That's kind of how we see it. And I think if we embrace that paradigm, we don't really have to be afraid of AI so much. We can. I think we should have guardrails. It shouldn't be like, we let it run loose and let it do whatever it wants. If it then gets at that point where it has a will, potentially even, I think we need to be careful about that. But if we embrace that and really see, hey, AI is there to serve us humans in a way to whatever it is, right? Medicine, obviously, to detect, that's not something we have anything to do with, right? But there's so many positive applications of it, and we just need to have enough guardrails, I think, for the quote unquote dangerous ones. But I look at it, I'm also a technology optimist, right? I'm usually seeing the positive side of technology, but I also fully understand people who see the dangers and the potential negative aspects of, especially, for example, something like AI.
There you go. There you go. So tell people again how they can onboard with you, reach out to you, and talk to you about being a fit.
Yeah, so I mean, the best way is check out our website. It's Sphere.tech. So Sphere, just as you spell it, normal spelling, .tech, TECH. Our website, there you will find all the links. We have a ton of case studies also if you're interested. A few things we mentioned today. These are case studies online. You can also check out, see if that fits for your case too. There's a contact form where you can reach out to either request a demo, request more information about the product. You can also check out our socials. We are pretty active on LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel. Just search for Sphere.tech or Sphere.xr on these channels and you will find us. And get directly in touch with us. We always make sure to try to get back to you within 24 hours after someone reaches out. But I would say website socials are the best way to get in touch with us. We're obviously also at shows here and there, especially like industry shows. If you are there, say hi and love to give you a demo. But that's kind of the easiest and best way to get in touch with us.
There you go. There you go. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Sven. We really appreciate it, man. This has been really fun and insightful.
Thank you.
I have hope for the future. And then
Good.
And then maybe I'll also hope that you can work at that whole Sphere thing in Vegas, and you guys can.
We'll see. I hope so too. It will be cool.
There you go. There you go. Thanks about it. Oh, give us the .tech. I guess you may have already given that out, but let's give it again just for final purposes.
The Sphere.tech.
Sphere.tech.
Sphere.tech. Yeah.
Check it out, folks. Watch for it coming to a Google Glass 2.0, Apple, whatever the hell they're called this week. Glasses. I think they're calling them the Steve Jobs glasses. No, I guess he didn't really build them. So
no, he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, you'd have to call him the who's the new guy?
Tim Cook.
The Cook glasses. The glasses for cooking. There you go. So thanks for honest for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Subscribe to the big LinkedIn newsletter, the big 130,000 group over there. All the different places we are on the interwebs. Chris Voss 1 at the TikTokity. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time. There you go.